KPAL News Time is 7:43. This is Acadiana's Morning News. Bernadette Lee and Brandon Como here with you on this Tuesday morning edition of the show. And joining us on the phone line right now is Congressman Charles Boustany. Congressman Boustany, good morning.
Well, good morning. It's great to be with you all this morning.
Well, we appreciate it, yeah.
Definitely. Thank you for joining us. And we have a few topics we want to get with you about. First, we want to talk with you about Paul Ryan being named the Speaker of the House. Now, I remember a conversation that we had back when Boehner was stepping down. And at the time, you had said that you really didn't, and this was before Boehner decided to step down, and this was when all the talk was going about who should replace him. And I remember you had made the comment that you didn't see someone else filling that position. Now, what I want to ask you is, first of all, Paul Ryan being named the Speaker of the House, first of all, are you in favor of it? And then second of all, did that announcement, did Paul Ryan's name getting mentioned in Speaker of the House and then the whole process, did it kind of take you even by surprise a little bit?
Right. Well, when I made that previous comment, it's because I know Paul well, and he didn't want to be Speaker. Mm-hmm. This was not in his plans. He was very pleased to remain as Ways and Means Chairman. That's the committee I serve on. So I've worked with him very closely. I know him really well. And so in my mind, there was nobody else ready to step up. Now, Paul's very capable, and I support him. In fact, I talked to him as he was trying to make a decision about this. And I said, listen, whatever you do, whether you choose to stay as chairman of our committee, that's great. You know, I love working with you. You're doing an awesome job. But if you do choose to pivot and take on this role as Speaker of the House, I'm going to do everything I can to help you be successful, because we need to unify our party. We're seeing a lot of discord playing out among presidential candidates on the Republican side, a lot of divisions within the Republican conference in the House of Representatives. Paul's a guy who can unify it, and so far he's off to a pretty good start.
Speaking with Congressman Charles Boustany now, we want to talk about the budget deal that was passed. And, you know, as a matter of fact, the most telling quote that came out of that was Speaker of the House Paul Ryan, you know, basically saying, hey, I think the process stinks. Now, you voted to oppose the budget deal that was negotiated between John Boehner and President Obama. What about this deal? And again, the deal will suspend the debt limit through March 15th of 2017. What was it about this deal that you're so opposed to?
Well, the process was very bad. It was deeply flawed. We didn't have time to fully review what was in this budget proposal. Secondly, as I did review it, there were things in it that I did not like, such as taking more oil out of the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. Mm-hmm. This was going to take oil that the federal government bought at a high price and sell at a very low price, $8 or $9 a barrel. It made no sense at all. There were some other budgetary gimmicks in there to cover the cost of this. I've been long in favor of trying to do something to improve the funding and get more certainty with funding for our military. And while this was a good part of the budget agreement, it didn't go quite far enough. But at the same time, the way the process played out, where we didn't have time to review all the details in this, and some of the pay-fors in it, some of the financing of it really made no sense to me at all. It was really the wrong way of doing this in my mind. So we need to settle down to get back to detailed evaluations of these programs, how we're going to deal with our budget situation, what Paul Ryan likes to refer to as regular order, where the committees hold numerous hearings, fully vet these bills and approaches to solving problems so that it's very transparent. And then when it goes to the floor, there's the opportunity to offer amendments. And so I'm in favor of that. That's not what this budget approach did, and that's why I opposed it.
You know, there's something else you also spoke about as well, expressing disappointment. And as it relates to the 5-year farm bill that was passed not even quite 2 years ago, and you said that the current budget agreement actually breaks that promise.
Well, yeah, typically when you pass a 5-year farm bill, that is law, and that basically sets the framework in place for all of our agriculture programs. And included in this was reopening the farm bill, not even, basically a year later, and changing the crop insurance program in a way that was going to really wreck it for our farmers and our ranchers. And I was deeply opposed to that. That's another issue that was buried in this. I was very, very unhappy with the way this was put in there. And again, another reason to oppose that budget proposal.
Speaking with Congressman Charles Boustany, and one thing that you actually applauded coming out of actually the Senate was the passage of a short-term extension of the Highway Trust Fund's expenditure authority through November 20th. This was something that you worked with, with your colleagues such as Garrett Graves and Ralph Abraham, mentioning those as members from Louisiana. What was it about this short-term extension that made you happy, that you think is good for people here in Louisiana?
Well, I'm not applauding the short-term extension because of what it is. I'm applauding the fact that we got it done so that we can actually put together a long-term highway bill, which we haven't done since 2005. Mm-hmm. And I've long advocated that we need to settle down and do the work the American people expect us to do to create certainty with highway construction so we can build I-49 South or take care of LA1 or I-10 improvements and so forth. I've been working on the financing side, and this week, this three-week extension is allowing us now to take up this week, starting today, a 6-year highway bill in the House. And there's still controversy on the financing, of which I'm very deeply involved in trying to solve that problem. But right now, what's under consideration will be financing put together by the Senate, which I'm not happy about. But the actual policy in this is very good. It's going to streamline a very convoluted process that's already in place to improve highway construction, put in place design build procedures rather than, a very lengthy design, then build, then go, these are the kinds of things that have delayed highway construction 10 years once the money's there. And so it's a good bill. The financing is not good, and we're going to continue to debate on that with the Senate. But I'm hopeful that we'll be able to at least advance the ball so that by the end of December, we will have in place a good, well-thought-through 6-year highway bill that's financed appropriately and creates certainty to rebuild our aging infrastructure. Very important piece that's needed to move forward with economic growth.
As we wrap up with Congressman Charles Boustany, I want to get just want to ask you about as a Veterans Day ceremony that's happening at Green Lawn Memorial Park on Veterans Day. And I noticed that you're going to be a guest speaker at the event. We actually have Mr. Gene Walters here a little bit later on to talk about the event itself. But you're actually going to be a guest speaker for that event.
Right, yeah. Well, I've worked very hard on veterans issues. We need to honor our veterans and understand the sacrifices that they and their families make. I'm pleased that we're advancing the ball now and getting the clinics built in Lafayette and Lake Charles, both the primary campuses and the secondary campuses. So we are watching the VA and all its inefficiency continue to create, difficulties as we go forward. But the authority for the construction of the clinics and the financing is in place thanks to my efforts working with the rest of our colleagues, including Senator David Vitter, who helped a lot with this and worked side by side with me on it. So we have to honor our veterans. I think every American should honor, think about the families and the veterans on that day. I'm going to be pleased to speak at that event, and I think there's one other event I'll be speaking at to honor our veterans.
That's one thing. You touched upon that with Senator David Vitter. And, I mean, there's been a lot of, obviously, in this governor's race, there's been a lot of criticism, thrown the way of candidates. It's what normally happens in political campaigns. But one of those has been, and people calling in yesterday to Moon Show, as a matter of fact, a couple of, I guess, I don't know if you call them accusations, but people saying that they feel that Senator Vitter has abandoned the VA. And I know you just talked on that, but I want to get you to expound on that, just how much you've worked with Senator David Vitter when it comes to the veterans.
Well, to get this done required legislation in both the House and the Senate. And, I spearheaded the effort in the House. I had to get the House to waive a budget rule, which is a very rare thing to move the ball on this. Once I did this, then I was able to partner with David over on the Senate side because he had to marshal through a VA bill over there and ensure that the clinics were included in a larger package that was moving. I worked on the House side, and then once we passed those respective bills, there were differences. So we had to make sure that whatever was finalized in the negotiations between House and Senate included the clinics, and David and I worked very closely to be sure that our clinics were included in that. And so we were constantly in communication. Our staffs were talking and strategizing to make this happen. Our veterans across the state, and especially in the Lafayette and Lake Charles areas, need to be grateful for the work that we were able to accomplish to get this done, because we had to overcome some serious odds. And David carried the water over on the Senate side. I did it on the House side. We coordinated our efforts, and that's why we were successful.
Congressman,
so David has stood up. David has stood up our veterans. I don't think anybody can level an accusation that he's abandoned our veterans. That's not true.
Congressman Charles Boustany has been our guest this morning, sir. Thank you so much for your time.
Great to be with y'all. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right.
Great interview. Thank you.
KPEL News Time is coming up on 7:54.